All right, got a Everlast w375 water cooler here that just showed up the other day. I haven't even put any water in it yet. But I wanted to pull it apart and kind of show what's going on the inside here, which granted these things are relatively pretty simple. It's a little cute tiny induction motor. Um, zero point 0.5 horsepower, evidently, with a fan and a little tiny radiator on one side and a little tiny water pump on the other side. Some hosing, a little bit of electronics, and quick couplers for the TIG torch, and that's about it in a steel box. Um, there are lots of things that you can do as far as like a homemade water cooler. Something as simple as a little submersible pump in a 5-gallon bucket. Of course, all the way up to if you had like an old hydraulic cooler lying around, you could make yourself like a little aluminum box or something like that, a little aluminum tank and what have you, and do up your own deal. But this one I got with the welder. One thing that I quite like about it is that it plugs directly back. It plugs directly into the back of the welder, which is not necessarily unique to Everlast. But I do really like that it uses a standardized plug. I've seen some of the HTPs and shit have a special proprietary plug, which is just a pain in the ass. And they're like a standalone unit. This one here, I'll show here in a minute, but is actually designed to stack underneath the welder, kind of like the Milwaukee Packout cases are. So I decided to open this thing up and coil up the excess wire in here so that I only have just a little bit of lead coming off the back of it, because I don't want to have too many wires going on the back side of the welder. Anytime you got the welder and the plasma cutter and shit out, it ends up being a spider web of shit on the ground, and I didn't really want to add to that. This zip tie's driving me nuts. I'm gonna cut it. But yeah, so the reason I pulled this apart was wanted to shorten up the cord. I wanted to add a coolant filter, or I mean, this is like a little, inline fuel filter, but I guess that'll work for now. Add a filter to it, and also to kind of show a video of it. There is one other video that I saw where a guy actually opened one of these things up. But I figured I'd make my own on it too. Um, not really in the right state of mind. Um, Things haven't been all too great lately, but not the point. So the reason that I wanted to add a filter to it, the industry that we work in, it is very common for things to have coolant filters on them, as far as like, engine coolant filters. And in my personal opinion, everything should be filtered. The amount of shit that you can get out of a coolant filter on the antifreeze, the engine coolant of a vehicle, is really pretty incredible. How much contamination can be in there. On one hand, in a perfect world, of course, this tank has been perfectly cleaned and the pump has been cleaned and all such things. But the current stock vent, if you will, on this cap here is actually just a drilled through hole in the cap that they put a piece of tape over so that things don't go leaking all over the place during shipping. They do actually give you a cute little... Shit, I think it's actually like stainless. I kind of thought that was plastic. But yeah, no, that is like a little stainless inlet filter on there, so that's cool. But dust and shit is going to get through the cap here, and I'm probably going to add a filter to the cap itself too. Also, who knows, maybe the power cable in the TIG torch will start to come apart. Maybe not maybe, the pump will wear over time. You know, there's all sorts of sources of contamination in any kind of fluid system like this. Even just as simple as when you couple and uncouple the fittings here, that's a chance for contamination. So yeah, on one hand, it'd be nice to do something better than this, but this is what I got lying around tonight, and I want to get it done tonight, and you know, we'll see how this holds up. Now, with this cooler, anyways, the little pack that I got from Everlast comes with a couple things here. There's brackets to be able to secure the welder to the cooler, and then the cooler to a table. I don't think I'm going to be using any of those. We'll see how things go. They also give you little quick couplers, little quick coupler barbs, like so, and the hardware that you would need to bolt everything down. They also give you, what is this, maybe 4 feet? 4 feet each of extra hose. By each, I mean one of them is red, one of them is blue. If you wanted to make your own hoses to couple into the front of here, they give you the little fittings and a little length of hose. And that was rather convenient because in order to put this filter in here in such a way that I was halfway happy with, I had to cut zip ties apart and move things around, and I needed a little bit of extra hose, and hey, bingo bango, fantastic, they send it with you. So that's cool. And so this is probably where the video is going to get really boring for most people. But I think it's worthwhile, so here we are. So the coolant that I like to use for essentially everything is this or shell coolant or something similar, something that is designed for a, if you want to call it, industrial diesel application. I use this stuff in absolutely everything that I have. My Honda dirt bike has it. My Toyota pickup has it. My Dodge pickup has it. My Kubota diesel lawnmower, my John Deere backhoe, literally everything I run that coolant in. And I guess it's noteworthy to say that I personally exclusively buy the 50/50 coolant. Yes, on one hand, you're paying for water, but it's also convenient for what we do because you just dump gallons in it until it's full and you don't have to worry about counting shit and trying to make sure you have the right ratio and whatnot. Yes, that's wasteful with the plastic jugs, but for what we do, the portability is worth it, I guess. But yes, you're paying for water, but it's very, very clean water. Of course, you can make the argument that you buy concentrate and use distilled water, and that's probably just fine. I'm sure, you know, and I'm certainly not saying that there's anything wrong with that. But I don't know if the coolant manufacturer actually wants a little bit of minerals, a little bit of additives in the water. On one hand, you would think they just put it in the coolant. I don't know. I do know that I've been using the 50/50 for a very long time. And when I pulled the oil cooler out of my pickup, you can see clear into the inside of the block. And it was just, you know, bright, shiny, perfect cast iron, just like it came off the assembly line with absolutely no corrosion or buildup or anything whatsoever. So, you know, you do you, and I'm going to do what I like. But that having been said, I wanted to see what Everlast had to say about this. And so here's the manual that comes with it, and Everlast has been their manuals have been surprisingly useful. And of course there is, you know, a little bit of like lawyer bullshit in here, but what I find very interesting about this here that seems to be rather unique to it, and hold it there for a moment in case somebody wants to see the whole thing. What I think is very nice about this is they don't go into as much detail about this as I would like, um, but they do at least talk about some things here. So, what coolant should I use and what coolant should I not use? Make sure the coolant is rated for TIG high frequency use. Some coolants are for MIG, such and such. These coolants are considered conductive and can drain high frequency energy from the torch, making arc starts difficult or erratic. There was actually a guy that commented on my channel just yesterday, saying that he has one of the Everlast 356, is it SI welder, that he says doesn't start worth a shit. Hey, did he open up the manual and read this? And he's using some conductive deal. On one hand, I haven't heard this before, but on the other hand, I suppose it makes sense. If anything, these coolants are designed to absorb that kind of stuff and prevent electrolysis and what have you. But anyways, quality TIG cooler components or coolants include line conditioners and lubricants. Yes, of course. Anti-algae, you don't want to run, straight water in it because shit can grow in the water. This is kind of interesting. Quality TIG water ethylene glycol based cooler coolants have antifreeze protection, which protect from freezing down to negative 32 Fahrenheit. Distilled water may be used for 3 months, but it should only be used as a short-term thing. Which coolants should I stay away from? And it says here, any automotive type coolants, regardless of color or similarity to commercial TIG, low conductivity coolants. In my defense, this isn't necessarily an automotive coolant. Yes, trucks are also considered part of the automotive industry, but, hey. Propylene glycol, which is interesting. You should stay away from propylene glycol. I actually had thought that this coolant was propylene glycol. The fuck does it say it? Contains ethylene glycol. So that's, I guess, a good start. Alcohol, including isopropyl, what the fuck, RV type antifreeze, low quality cheap coolants, TIG coolant not specified as low conductivity by manufacturer, so on and so forth. But so, anyways, that's interesting. I never thought of the coolant as needing to be non-conductive. If you have a leak in the torch, it would really suck to have, water on your hands when you stomp on the pedal. But at the same time, also from reading this here, it makes it sound like the wrong coolant could fuck with the operation of the torch. And that was something I had never thought of. That having been said, we're going to try this and see how it does. And if nothing else, I can obviously just drain it out and get, I don't know, the Miller coolant or something like that. I tend to believe Everlast with what they say about the coolant. Quite honestly, for one reason is because they don't sell their own coolant. It's not like some manufacturers that say, use our specified shit, or else you'll crash and burn and kill the bus full of pregnant nuns, but don't worry, if you come down and you buy our own specific shit, everything's going to be cool. There's obviously a financial incentive there. With a lot of different things, I do like to use factory components, and I think in most instances, factory components are, a good choice. But at the same time, I also, am not, immune to the fact that there's possibility for some, sleazy salesman shitbaggery going on there. Like I said, it's been a rough couple of days. But get some coolant in here, and I'll show you something else that's really neat about this thing. Oh no, we're not following the manual. Holy shit. Normally I am all for doing things by the book. Most of the time, I guess. Just gonna put a splash of coolant. There's maybe a quart in there. Then I'm gonna put distilled water for the rest of it. Okay, so I got it about 2/3 full. I ended up putting a little bit more antifreeze in it. Reason being, right now it's summer, so I'm not worried about it freezing for a couple months anyways. But I don't want shit growing in there, and I don't want shit corroding either. Distilled water hopefully wouldn't corrode things too bad, but the addition of the little bit of antifreeze makes me feel a little bit better. And then this will give me a chance to check for leaks, see how it works, and what have you. You know, who knows, is this filter gonna blow apart in the presence of coolant? I have no idea. But yeah, so I really like how this has a standardized plug. It'll plug right into the back of the welder if you leave the cooler on. Let me rephrase that. It'll plug directly into the back of the welder. Then with it plugged into the back of the welder, if you leave the cooler turned on, then all you have to do is turn the welder on and off, and the cooler will come on and off with the welder, and then you can never forget not to turn the cooler on. So that's kind of a handy feature. And the cool part about it being a standardized plug is that you can just get yourself a little short adapter plug like this. I actually don't know what this type of plug is called. Sure, it has a name, but I don't know it. Now, this cord is just a regular old 110 volt cord, and this is a 220 volt cooler. On the other hand, though, it's an induction motor and some simple electronics, so it shouldn't really care about under voltage all too much. And so I tried it right quick without coolant in it, and I guess now that I got coolant in it, we'll see what happens. So I thought that this here was a little bleed line and that it would self-prime just fine, but apparently not. I'm going to plug in one of the couplers in here so that I can purge out any air, because typically liquid pumps are not good at pumping a gas. Okay, got a fitting plugged into the water out. So it doesn't start very well on 110. Bummer. Okay. I guess that's not going to work. So, and evidently this is a bleed line, so that if the torch were to get plugged, or you didn't have anything plugged in, that it wouldn't deadhead the pump. But that motor's not turning fast enough, I don't feel like, on 110 volt. I was hoping that that was going to work, but I guess not. My thought was, if I wanted to use this TIG welding directly off of my Trailblazer 325 amp welder, The number 18 torches are rated for 350 amps. So if I had a water cooler with me, one would think that that combination would work quite well. And the Trailblazer has got the XL power where it'll power 110 volt at idle, like for this cord. But apparently that's not enough voltage for the motor. But I can just simply get a cord, make a cord, whatever, that I could power this off of 220, off of the Trailblazer, which wouldn't be ideal. Then it'd have to be revved up, but you know, at least it's something. And at least I can very quickly and easily power this water cooler by itself out on the road. Of course, if I take the Everlast welder with me, I just plug the Everlast welder into the Trailblazer and away she be. And so here is the cooler assembled. By itself. Got a cute little grab handle on the top there. And yeah, so here's this like latch mechanism here that clips together. I shouldn't say it clips together, but it does at least slide together and kind of lock into place on the bottom side of the welder there. And the cooler itself has the same, you know, mounting feet or whatever you want to call on the bottom of it. So presumably you could stack a couple of these coolers together if you were so inclined. Well, I wasn't originally going to put those on. As it turns out, without those rear brackets on there, the welder kind of weeble wobbles on the rear of the cooler. So get the welder on the cooler, and I guess I'll put the bolts in. And there she be on the cart. I don't have, so the Hobart is bolted down. You can kind of see the silver sticking out right there. I have some spacers underneath the Hobart so that it's not sitting directly on the bottom. Ooh, actually, now that I see it, neither is the Everlast. There's actually this space here, which I really like. I don't like things being flat on the bottom. My shop is extremely dirty. We do, you know, lots of, well, I don't know about lots of, but we do enough metal work in here, you know, plasma cutter, grinding, that kind of stuff, that it just fucking makes a mess everywhere. And so I like it when shit is not completely on the floor, whether that be the floor of the cart. I might do something with the cylinders here, or directly sitting flat on the shop floor, because it just makes a pain in the ass to clean. At least if there's an air gap here, you can get in there with a blowgun and blow it out. That was my reasoning for wanting to shorten up the water cooler power lead. So this is the power lead for the water cooler, and you can see the way that I shortened it up and tucked up the excess. It just plugs into the back of the welder here and is nice and short and isn't dangling all over the place. The argon lead here, I originally wasn't intending to have on this welder. I'm eventually going to shorten that up so that it's, you know, something like so, instead of dangling as far down as it is. Kind of like you can see on the Hobart here. So I've got little Deskin filter. I had moisture in one of my other cylinders from a different supplier. Thankfully, this one is still indicating completely dry. But you can see the argon lead doesn't go all the way down. Again, like to keep it nice and clean. Anyways, there it is. It's actually a really good match sitting next to the Hobart there. And holy shit, talk about fitting perfectly on the cart there. I think what I'll end up doing is putting in some kind of like, I don't know, welding in like a border or something around here to prevent the welder from moving around. The water cooler did come with these brackets here. You know, you'd stick one of those in each corner and then you could bolt it down to something. But of course, I don't want it sticking out the side of the cart like that. So I'm going to do something else. But, okay, cooler is off. Turn the welder on. And I know the fan noise is a pain, but wow. Okay, that cooler is kind of loud. And I mean, unfortunately the welder is loud too. I'll get the TIG torch all hooked up to it. So there is approximately 4.3 fuckloads of extra hoses hanging off the end of this TIG torch here, but there's the water-cooled 18 all hooked up. And then now with the TIG torch hooked up to the cooler, it should not beep when we turn it on, other than the start. And then if we pinch a line, so, holy shit. There's evidently some pretty good pressure behind that. Watch the hoses. Jesus. So, that cooler moves a fuckload of air, and I'm sure it'll keep the torch nice and cool. Find out here in a minute. But holy crap, that's loud. I kind of forgot to film it. I was just farting around. Well, that's weird. Looks like smoke in the video, but I don't see shit in person. Anyways, farting around on a piece of steel. It's late. I'm tired. Kind of forgot to film it. That water cooler is very cool. Literally, it is. I personally have never used a. No, I lied. I take that back. It's been a lot of years since I've used a water-cooled torch, and I forgot how nice these things are. Several minutes of welding at 200, 250 amps, and perfectly cool to the touch. So I am not sorry that I got that thing one bit. If you haven't noticed already, what the fuck is with the focus? Jesus Christ. The color of the welder and the water cooler is completely and totally different. I mean, okay, they're both green. We got that going for us. Both of those two, yeah, like I said, they're both green, but different shades of green. This one is a smaller Everlast that I've had for a number of years, and they're actually all a different color of green. But that's okay. I don't care how they look. Doesn't matter in the fucking slightest to me. I just care how they perform. You can tell that little welder there damn near sits within the plastic. Damn near sits within the plastic handles of that one there. Fucking hell. Okay, maybe the focus will be better now. Kind of thinking what I might do. This one, well, see, what the fuck is this one? A 206 Pi. That one's a 256 Si. Both stick TIG plasma. However, this one is a much nicer TIG welder than that one is. I'm thinking what I might do here is figure out some sort of method that I can kind of mount the smaller Everlast on top of the bigger one there. And then I guess, three in a row ready to tow. Or fuck something, I don't know. I don't know. Um, I might leave that one set up as a uh, plasma cutter, like leave a plasma torch on it, and this one set up as a TIG welder, and then it just kind of make it easier to switch back and forth between the two. Of course, the the Hobart over here is a wire welder and nothing else. But I don't know. I'm maybe you might kind of like the idea of having all three of those welders on there and ready to go. But for what it's worth, there's a, little show and tell, if you will, on the Everlast cooler. Um, so far, this new welder that I have here, the 256 SI, has been great. I've really quite liked it. Wish I got one years ago. Same thing with the water cooler, for that matter, too. I do have a problem with the plasma torch. Um, I I probably have to send back the plasma torch, and I'll talk more about that, show more about that as that evolves. But yeah, my little idea for a cart here is coming along quite well, if I do say so myself.